Right, so let's go on to our next presenter, who is Jules Birkby. Let's give it up for Jules Birkby!
It's a bit nippy, isn't it? Can everyone hear me okay? Hello, I'm Jules, and I believe the world can be divided into two groups. The people who think I'm about to talk about festival essentials, and the people who are currently recoiling in horror at the abomination on screen. Now, if you're anything like me, you'll be recoiling in horror because you'll have spotted the redundant apostrophe, or greengrocer's apostrophe as it's sometimes called. And if you're anything like me, you'll be horrified on a daily basis. So a typical day might start in the morning when you receive an email, and someone says it's nice to hear from you without an apostrophe. So you'll take a deep breath, it's early, you'll forgive them because they're your friend. But later on, you'll be on Twitter and you'll see you're wonderful without an apostrophe. But again, you'll forgive this person because it's probably just predictive text. But then you'll be in a supermarket and you'll see 10 items or less instead of 10 items or fewer. And you'll be watching telly and see thousands of bargains with an apostrophe. Before you know it, you're sitting on the sofa, seething with rage in the middle of a gin-fueled existential crisis because the world has forgotten how to punctuate. Or maybe that's just me. Now, I'm a writer, so I'm quite pedantic when it comes to grammar. But I've had countless conversations with people who've tried to persuade me that punctuation and grammar just don't matter anymore. And this included a mystery man on Twitter, who tweeted a most eloquent reply to something that I tweeted about someone's bad grammar. And he said, "Who gives a It's Twitter, not an English essay. Get a life." Well, I wasn't quite sure how to reply to that, but then I realised there was probably only one way, and that was to correct his grammar. A few months ago, countless conversations were happening all over the internet when Waterstones committed the heinous crime of deciding to remove the apostrophe from their logo. Now, I was quite angry about this, as I'm sure you can tell. But it got me thinking about punctuation and grammar, and I started to wonder if the mystery man on Twitter had a point. If we can get our meaning across, does it even matter anymore? Should we just come to terms with the fact that language is evolving? Well, the answer is no, the mystery man from Twitter does not have a point, and here's why. So, in the book Eat, Shoots and Leaves by Lynn Truss, which some of you may have read, she describes punctuation as the stitching of language, and without it, language comes apart. And I think this is a really pertinent way to describe it, because actually punctuation isn't there to confuse us, it's actually there to help us. And it can actually be quite beautiful. So it tells us when to stop and when to pause. It tells us if something's a question or an exclamation, and if you pop an apostrophe in there, you've got a contraction or a possession. So what happens when grammar falls apart? Well, sometimes nothing happens at all. St Paul's Cathedral, fine, Tom's computer game, you can still get the meaning. But Dick's in tray is kind of a bit more open to interpretation. Similarly, and quite famously, Prudential's old strapline used to be, "Prudential, we're here to help." And without the apostrophe, you'd be forgiven for thinking that they just shut up shop and gone home. Another example that Lynn Truss gives in her book is how commas are really important. If you compare a woman without her man is nothing, with a woman without her man is nothing. So you can see the difference. Another good example of commas, "Let's eat grandma," which is really rather terrifying. Or I'm not really sure if you can see the picture very well, but that says "Stop clubbing, baby seals." Those pesky techno-living aquatic mammals. And then there's hyphens. So another example that Lynn Truss gives is extramarital sex, which is where you're getting a bit more than you usually do at home, or extramarital sex, where having some kind of clandestine affair. So don't mix those two up. And then, is it a hard working man or a hard working man? Is it 200 odd members of the Conservative Party? Well, actually it probably is. So, what is to be done about all this? Well, if you're on the same page as me, I propose action. Well, actually I've proposed a hashtag, which is sort of the same thing. The next time you see something that's badly punctuated on Twitter, retweet it with the hashtag grammar to make you feel a lot better, but you may be told to get a life. And I hope I've shown you how grammar can make a difference, because at the end of the day, good grammar is the difference between knowing your shit and knowing your shit. Thank you.
Thank you, Jules.